Okay, so last week I made a video talking about how to get through Madhouse. If you didn't see the stream, we streamed Madhouse that weekend and beat it for the first time, and I thought I'd make a video talking about my personal advice to someone who hadn't played through it before, and just some general kind of tips. One thing I mentioned in that video is I don't really follow walkthroughs on these games. You know, I don't really watch video guides on how to do things. I just go and do it and then figure it out myself and then refine my own method. Basically, I don't try and use anyone else's method to, beat the game. But that being said, I don't want to post walkthroughs of how I beat the games, but I do want to give people some advice and some things that I do to make it a little bit easier. So we're going to be doing Resident Evil 2 Hardcore today. This is the first scenario, it's a scenario, new game. No bonus items or nothing like that. Just a new game on Hardcore, like you would play it for the first time. So, some general advice and tips for that, for anyone who wants to do that, and let's just get started. So the main thing to keep in mind with the Resident Evil 2 Remake's Hardcore mode is this is the mode where the ink ribbons are present. Again, just like in Madhouse, you have an item you pick up to save your game. They are limited. They're a bit less forgiving in the 2 Remake than they are in 7. I think, personally, in Madhouse there was a lot of cassette tapes lying around, but in the 2 Remake I would say there's still enough to kind of have a free save every now and again, but there's a lot less lying around. So obviously, with that being said, plan your saves, know when you're going to need to save the game. If there's a part of the game that you struggled with in normal, or if you've played through Hardcore already and you get to a bit you find it a little bit difficult, that's when you want to save the game. Because obviously if you die in Hardcore, there's no auto saves, so you're going back to your last manual save. I believe there is certain checkpoints, certain boss fights and stuff like that, but again, they're not massively close together, so you do want to save when you feel it's necessary. So let's talk about defensive weapons and ammo in this game. In the background you can see me knifing a zombie to death that's on the floor. This you can do, it is completely up to you, but I would probably, looking back now, say don't do that, and there's a very good reason as to why. Basically, Resident Evil 2 has a slot of items called defensive items, and that comes in the form of a knife, a flash grenade, and a hand grenade, I believe. You can use these things whenever you want, and they do help out in certain situations, in boss fights, avoiding some tough enemies and stuff like that, but they are basically a get out of jail free card. If you get grabbed by any type of enemy, you can use this defensive item to escape the grab undamaged and carry on as normal. Obviously, you'll lose the item. If it's a knife, you can get it back by killing the enemy that it's in, but again, waste of ammo. And with grenades and flash grenades, obviously, once they're gone, so ideally, you do not want to get grabbed in this game, but if you do, those items do help you get out of it unscathed, so something to keep in mind, always have 1 or 2 of those in your inventory at all times. But ideally, you don't want to get grabbed at all. There are certain things you can do to kind of get past this. You can kind of bait zombies with a backstep. They do kind of lunge at you twice in Hardcore rather than once, so that it is a little bit of extra maneuvering you need to do, but nothing too complicated. They're not really all that smart. They kind of just come at you in a straight line, to be honest. So as long as you can get around them, you'll probably be okay. Now, my biggest kind of piece of advice for these harder modes, especially in games like Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 7, where you have a lot of key items you need to pick up and very limited space to do that, is practice the run. Especially with Resident Evil 2, because if you're playing the A scenario on normal or hardcore, the only difference is the difficulty. Obviously, that means, with Madhouse, things kind of change where they are, they change where the spawns are, things and stuff like that. So you do have to kind of relearn it a little bit. Not too much, but there is some differences that will throw you off. But with Resident Evil 2, standard and hardcore, on the same scenario, so A run, everything's in the same spot. There's no extra enemies, there's no changing of locations for items, it's all in the same place. So yeah, my advice would be practice, even if you go on casual and practice, or stay on standard and practice, none of the items are moving, none of the enemies are spawning in different places. The only difference is ink ribbons are in extra spots, which items weren't even before, like they weren't present before, so just added in. So you won't have to look anywhere else for any items, they'll all be in the same place, any ammo you find will be in the same place. So figure out where things are that you need and things you might need, just so that you can kind of get around the police station pretty quickly and know what you need to pick up when you need it. Basically, what that allows you to do is get rid of key items immediately, so that you can find it, you can use it, and it's gone and done with. You have more space then for healing, more ammo, weapons, and stuff like that. Things that you need to stay alive, rather than like having 5 key items in your inventory that you don't even know where they go or what they do yet. So it's good to have an idea of the plan of action, so where you're going to go and what you're going to do first before you start the run. It makes it easier in the long run. let's talk about fighting enemies in this game, more specifically the normal enemies you encounter, so any zombies, dogs, or anything like that. Something that a few people mention in videos like this, but not everyone does, is it doesn't matter where you shoot a zombie in Resident Evil 2. It's the same damage, okay? You shoot a zombie in the foot, or you shoot a zombie in the head, it's the same amount of damage. Like, it doesn't matter. Yes, you can shoot them in the feet to knock them down, but the damage is the same. Like, you're not going to lose any damage for shooting something in the foot, but you do benefit from shooting things in the head, and there's a very good reason as to what that is. Now, Resident Evil 2 has a random crit system involved in the game, and basically what that is when your ADS and your reticle goes really small, that is a perfect shot, and basically there's a chance for those shots to instantly explode a zombie's head and they'll be dead immediately, just like that in the background. It's a random chance thing. It doesn't always do it. It's very RNG. It is an RNG system in terms of, will you get lucky and use 2 shots and kill a zombie, or will you have to waste an entire magazine to just down it and not even kill it? It's annoying at times. It does kind of add that whole, again, I've said before, RNG factor to the run, because you could go through a run and not have it happen much, or you could go through a run and like start 2-tapping every zombie in sight. It is completely random. Now, that system does also work on bosses and other enemies such as lickers and stuff like that, but they have so much HP anyway that it's not obviously going to one-hit them. I'm not sure what the multiplier on the shot is in bosses and lickers and stuff like that, but it does still work. But the best thing to do, especially with lickers and the IVs later on and stuff like that, is either try and get past them without firing too much of your ammunition, or, you know, try and use one of the special weapons such as the shotgun or the flamethrower to take them out without wasting too much pistol rounds, because you can really stack up a lot of ammo in your handgun if you kind of take your time and avoid and kill as little as possible in this run. Next up is obviously use the item box to your advantage. Don't just kind of shrug it off as nothing. If you are not really killing many things and stuff like that, you'll have a lot of ammo, and it can roll over into 2 slots, which can be a little unnecessary. Like, you don't need a lot of ammo in this game, really, but obviously more is better, especially for bosses. It makes it a lot easier. Bosses in the harder difficulties in RE are usually just bullet sponges rather than actually difficult, so you'll need a lot of ammo. Usually what I do when I have like an excess of ammo is just go around and try and take out as many zombies, especially in the RPD, as possible, because obviously there's a lot of backtracking involved with the RPD later on in the game, especially when Mr. X is up and moving around, so you don't want that many zombies in your way, because you kind of want to deal with him and him only. So especially the library here, I do clear it out basically every time, because it's a nightmare if there's all those zombies still alive and he comes in too. Make sure to do the bush shelves beforehand as well, so it saves you a lot of time and you can literally just push one and you're good to go. But no, yeah, use the item box. Store things you don't want. Store things that might come in useful later. Obviously, again, if you are avoiding things and taking not as much damage, you'll have a lot of healing. They'll take up a lot of spots. You don't really need to carry more than 2 herbs at a time, usually. Even 1 if you're pretty confident, because as long as you have like a green, a double green, 3 greens, or a red and a green, you'll be fine. Or even the first aid spray. Like, 1 of them is fine. Bosses maybe pick up 2 more, but, you know, general kind of between boss sections, 1 will do. But that's basically it, really. I mean, to summarise what I've basically said, you know, try and avoid as much as possible. Use the crit system in RE2 to your advantage if you have the ammo that you can spare. Obviously, if you don't have much ammo, then don't waste your bullets. But if you have a lot of ammo, especially in the RPD, clear it out if you can. Just makes it a lot easier later on in the game when Mr. X turns up and you can kind of just deal with him rather than 50 zombies on your back as well. Again, practice on normal or casual, you know, get the layout of the RPD down in your mind, know where things are that you need rather than what you don't. It saves you a lot of space, a lot of time, and, you know, again, it gets you familiar with where the spawns are for ammo and healing and the key items you need along the way. But yeah, overall, that's basically going to be it. Obviously, you know, if you want to use the bonus items like the infinite weapons and stuff like that, and the infinite knife, by all means do so, but it does feel a lot more kind of earned if you do it without any of the infinite stuff first time through. Anyway, after that, it doesn't really matter, but I always try and do hardcore without any infinite stuff. I always try and play Resident Evil on the hardest difficulty, honestly, because it feels a bit more, not realistic, obviously, but a bit more challenging and a bit more intense, even if you have played the game, you know, like a good amount of times. In terms of future streams, I do want to try and do a permadeath run of Resident Evil 2 of Leon and Claire A scenario. It's going to be practiced off of stream and off of recording, but I do want to do that eventually. That'd be pretty fun. I wonder if I can actually do it because permadeaths are always interesting. Obviously, it's possible, but it takes a lot of practice and a lot of patience. But I'm interested in doing one. But yeah, that's gonna be my kind of little advice for trying to beat RE2 on hardcore if it's your first time through. If it helps, let me know. And until next time, I'll see you in the next one.